So there's a story I wanted to talk about, and that story being Superman the Warworld Saga. However, something happened to Superman before this story even starts. However, it really does affect him throughout this story. And I think it's better if I start with that before I get into this. And this is going to be in parts, so I'm just going to give you that heads up right now. We're going to start off with what happened to Superman. Now, starting off with Superman issue number 29, you start off with Superman and John Kent, his son, in space dealing with creatures from another dimension. Now, you can see Superman looking at his son like he's a very proud dad because you see that his son doing just good in the universe right now. Now, when John and Kent are done beating up on one of the creatures, they throw it through a wormhole. Now, these wormholes were created by Star Labs. The reason they're doing this is because this team of Star Labs was working under Amanda Waller. Waller was trying to find a weakness for Superman, as she does with most metahumans, and they were telling her, hey, so the energy from this portal is hurting Superman, but it's not hurting his son. And Waller's like, that's good information for now, but let's just see how this goes. And during this battle in space, Clark Kent got in the way of a Christian's blast that was heading for John. What we find out is that John was actually really worried about this because he see that his father was actually hurt by these creatures, giving Amanda Waller all the data that she needs. Now Superman's like, it's all right, this happens all the time, and then they just go back to do what they're doing. After the portals were closed, the Superman and John just leave the scene, and they're talking, but while they're talking, that Superman started to see that John's a little freaked out about something. And it's solely for the fact that John's like, look, I don't know what's going to happen in the next few days, but while I was in the future, the history books were saying that you just disappeared. Now, for those who don't know, John Kent actually went into the future, joined the Legion of Superheroes, and that's when he found this out. A few moments later, the portal opens back up, and then you have like a bigger creature than it was before, with some creatures coming right after it. Then the story continues in Action Comics, issue number 1029, where our heroes go back up and face these creatures. For some reason, they're the only people that can do this. After the second fight, our heroes go to the Star Labs that opened the portal, and they were telling them that, hey, there's a way to do it, but you have to go on the other side of the portal to close it. John Kent tried to tell us that, hey, Dad, if you do this, it's a possibility that this is the reason that you don't show up. John's really just freaking out at this point. But the father lets him know, look, we can do this. Me and you, we got this. Everything will be fine. This helps John a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. And Superman goes to the other side of the portal, close it, and the day is saved. Now, John was still worried even after this, but Clark lets him know, look, whatever it is, we will deal with it, and we will pull through no matter what. I noticed both of them, they were being watched. Now, the person that was watching them was Mongol of Warworld. And this kicks off the Warworld Saga, and that's where we're going to start next. Thank you for watching, and of course, you have a great day. So the Warworld Saga is one of Superman's biggest events that came out recently, and it's cut into 3 parts. Part 1 is called Warworld Rising, and that starts in Action Comics issue number 1030. So the story starts off with these minions on their knees, be like, hey, yo, we serve you and only you. And as you can see, they're talking to their leader, Mongol. One of Mongol's generals go up to him like, hey, so I'm hearing the praises, but this is Mongol who is right now, not Mongol who was. The people who betrayed the Mongol who is loved Mongol that was and tried to take him out. They sang higher, all right? They gave bigger praises. We need bigger praises from y'all, so get out of our face unless y'all can sing higher. But as General was talking, a stranger walks up and is like, hey, so Mongol, I got what you need. And trust me when I say you're going to like this. And as the stranger opened the bag, he lets out like a ton of heads, and he's like, hey, so he's letting you know these are your sons, so you're welcome. Mongol's man was like, oh, okay, we gotta put you 6 feet in the dirt for this. Mongol's like, oh, hold on. Do y'all not forget I am the Mongol who is. I took out my father, the Mongol who was. And he's just making sure that whatever happened to my dad isn't going to happen to me. Now, stranger, what do you want? The stranger's like, now, I can get you something else, but we need a Kryptonian. And he's on Earth. And while their conversation, you have Superman on Earth fighting a giant robot. It might be Metallo, not 100% sure, but it looks like it. And he just throwing hands with him. After that battle, he meets up with Batman the Atom, and they tell him, look, I did some data on your strength, and you're not as strong as you used to be. Matter of fact, you're still losing your strength. Like, you might want to actually consider your son John to join the team. Now, what John's worried about is he's hanging out with his best friend Robin, Damian Wayne version. Now, they're just, just talking about life and just catching up on some stuff. John's like, I don't know, man. Like, I was in the future. The history books say that it's like my dad just disappears around this time. Damien's like, I can somewhat feel that. Like, me and my dad just aren't really doing that well. I'm not going to act like I know exactly what happened, but I know that Bruce Wayne and Damian Wayne are just not on the same page at this point. At some point, Clark goes back home to the Fortress of Solitude with Lois, and, they're just chilling. She's learning about his history. However, one of the ships from Warworld just happens to enter Earth's atmosphere, which Superman and John go to. In the midst of trying to de-escalate the smaller ships attacking the big ship, that Clark realizes, hold up, I'm hearing the phrase, but this can't be right. I never heard these words spoken aloud, but I read them before. They are a prayer. Sound like a prayer in a dead Kryptonian language, meaning that we might actually have more Kryptonians than we thought. Now, for those who don't normally read Superman, this is a big deal solely for the fact that there's not that many Kryptonians out there. So, how many more? I can't tell you right now. You have to watch part 2. But, thank you for watching. So, continuing with the Superman the Warworld Saga, last thing we saw, Superman rescuing passengers on an alien ship, and he finds out that one of them can speak a dead Kryptonian language, meaning that there might be some more Kryptonians out there. The story continues in Action Comics issue 1031. Superman goes up to that person and is like, hey, look, my name is Clark. I'm gonna try my best to get you out here safe and sound. But before Superman can save him, he has to go back out and attack Mongo's warships that were attacking him in the first place. And he was just going ham on each one of these ships. Superman beat him up to the point where even Mongo's ship was like, you know what, we can't do this. We're just going to have to retreat and come back. Superman grabs a Kryptonian, his son John pick up what he can, and they just go right back to the Fortress of Solitude. Now, while his guests are sleeping and getting medical treatment, he's talking to Supergirl, John, and Lois Lane because they're trying to figure out how could this happen. Supergirl is like, yeah, I don't believe that they actually said this because it can't be true. We are the last Kryptonian amongst a few others. Superman's like, look, I know what I heard. They can speak that language. Superman flies away to get more information, and he goes to Atlantis. And this is mainly because that the fights with the ship were happening very close to where the Atlantis capital was, or at least one of their cities. Now, Aquaman's there, some of the soldiers there, and some of the very important people of Atlantis is there. One of the residents there tells Superman, so this is one of the fragments from one of the ships, and it seems that this is a power source. However, it's something called Necropolis. I'm going to just have that typed up here. And basically, it powers up the entire ship, but it's so much more powerful than that. We don't even understand it. Superman is like, okay, let me take it off your hands so I can figure out what this is. One of them's like, hold up. You're not taking this anywhere. This is Atlantis property now. This is over our waters. This is ours. He tried to talk to Arthur about that. Arthur's like, look, I'm not the king anymore, so you're going to have to figure something out. Either way, if you want to study it, you're going to have to study it here. But we do have prisoners. They take Soup to the prisoners. Superman's like, are the chains really necessary? No, this part's important. They say they came there with the chains, and when they try to take the chains off them, they really showed the hard way that they do not like anyone taking their chains, meaning that they're important. We will get to that later on, though. Now, Superman goes into their cell, try to talk to them, feel like, hey, I don't want to start anything, but I want to figure out why y'all chasing these people. Now, they're like, you know what? We know who you are, but we answer the Mongol. We don't answer you. One of them actually tried to start beating on Clark Kent. It doesn't work, but I can't show that because of how graphic it is. But either way, they were giving Superman no information whatsoever. And while that's happening, back at the Fortress of Solitude, Supergirl and Lois Lane and John, they find out is like, okay, these are Kryptonians. They're just like a faction that follow the scientists, and they just left Krypton like long times ago. How Mongol got a hold of them, we have no idea. Then one of the Kryptonian prisoners woke up, scared that her chains were gone, so she found the chains, put them back on. Keelix tried to talk to her. Then out of nowhere, she started beating the crap out of Keelix. But why is she doing this? Because Mongol forced her to beat Superman so she can gain his loyalty. Crazy. But that's all the time I got for this video. I'll explain what happened next in the next video. Thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw was a Kryptonian prisoner destroying Keelix because Mongol forced her to unalive Superman so she can gain his loyalty. Now, our story continues in Action Comics, issue number 1032. Now, when Superman gets back to the Fortress of Solitude, he tried to calm her down, let her know everything's gonna be okay. Like, hey, I got you and your friend in safety. Everything's gonna be all right. Just let me know your name, and while we're at it, we can take those chains off. Sadly, that was not a good idea. The moment Superman tried to reach for those chains, she just point blank blast him in the face, like, just stay away, no one's touching these chains. And Superman's like, all right, I'll let you keep those chains, but you need to calm down. She's like, all right, I'll calm down. Elseworld in Atlantis, you have the scientists looking at this fragment from Warworld that's a power source. And when the scientist is like, you know, this thing is very powerful, it's almost like there's a literal god living in this. Like, it's just crazy. The one guy's like, how long have you been there, this thing? Because you don't look the same. The same scientist is like, oh my god, I've never felt power like this before. And basically the fragment, or the energy from the fragment, just turned him into an entire monster. Basically, kaiju level problem. Now back at the fortress, Superman was able to get some information out of her. Her name is Stao Lao. And they find out that the Mongol that they usually fight is actually unalive. So now they're fighting a whole new complete Mongol with different roles, different plans. They know for a fact they sent the Kryptonian to bring out Superman. Superman's like, I know it's a trap, but I still gotta do something to free those prisoners. Sometime later, Superman goes to Batman to like try to figure some stuff out, and he wanted to ask him some questions like, hey, you think this is a good idea? What do you think I should do? You think I'll get back up? Batman's like, look, I don't know for sure, but we can deal with Earth. Hold on, let me punch this guy up here. Bah! All right, look, we can deal with Earth, but that's a whole other thing. But wait, what's going on? Superman and Batman goes to the area near Atlantis, and then they see these kaijus fighting. They're like, what happened? And Arthur's like, look, man, the energy from the fragment just turned these people into kaijus. I need your help dealing with these. You're the one that brought the fragment here. So while they're fighting, at one point, Superman goes inside one of the kaijus, but for some reason, it doesn't look like a summit. It felt like a whole different world. Into this place, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the fragment made a domain expansion. It was like, hey, so just letting you know, whatever comes in the future, you're going to be going to wherever this power source is. And you play a role more than you think you do. But we'll see you soon. After the voice disappears, Superman uses freeze breath to destroy the monster from the inside out. So the monster freezes over and he just turns into shards of ice. The thing is, hold up. Who's coming out of that helicopter? It's Steve Trevor. He comes down and saying, hey, look, I'm here on behalf of the U.S. government. Y'all having problems with the fragments? Why don't y'all let us have it? Aquaman tried to tell Steve, look, you try this, you're going to start a war. Steve's like, look, the government does not care. We need that fragment. That's all the time I got for this video, but of course, I will explain more in the next video. Thank you for watching. We are back with the Superman Warworld Saga story. And the last thing we learned, the Kryptonian's name is Dala, and she does not like anyone touching her chains, and the possibility of war because the U.S. government wants the fragment that the Atlanteans have. So continuing the story in Action Comics, issue number 1033. So now we're at an Atlantis military base where people guarding the fragment, but then you see these people just sneaking into base, obviously to get the fragment. But when they try to get the fragment, they were caught, obviously, and the Atlanteans like, so is there a reason your government sent you people here? Time later, the Justice League are talking about this, and they're saying, look, they were part of Task Force S, that's Minawala, not the government. Others like the Atlanteans don't really care. Superman's like, look, we need to do something about this fragment because the more it stays here, the more problems we're going to have. Back at the Forces of Solitude, you see Thalau's training with her new ability because obviously it's her first time being exposed to the yellow sun. And she's trying to talk to Lois about like, hey, my friend's waking up. Look, we're just trying to figure this out. John's one level below us on site because he does not fully trust her at all. Now, during the conversation, Lois Lane asks her, why do you care about the change so much? Why can't you be away from them? And Thalao explains that on Warworld, every link of that chain is a fight that they won. Whether they won by submission, KO, or obviously. So what happened is, while they're talking, you can see right here that someone is watching them. It was Mongo and his generals. Now his general is like, you know, she must have forgot the reason she's there. How about we find a way to remind her? Then we automatically go to the prisoner of Atlantis, and as you can see, one of their chests is just burning or whatever that is. And then the other prisoner is like, I see our master is calling us. He who holds the change. Even the prisoner with the pain is like, I see it's my time to go. All for the Mongo who is. And what's in the chest is a teleporter, and it teleports them somewhere else. Now the scene goes to the oceans where the Atlanteans are about to go to war with the U.S. government. And then right as they were like really getting close to, they see someone in the sky, and who else but Superman, aka Big Boy Blue, just aura forming in the sky with his son John Kent and Supergirl. And they're there to make sure that it doesn't escalate into a war. And at this moment, in Fortune of Solitude, you have Thalao looking at her comrades, make sure that they're okay, just worried, like, I really hope that y'all wake up. And behind her, something opens up, and that is some of Mongo's strong warriors coming out of a portal from the prison. Then they attack Thalao, like, okay, it seems like you forgot why you're here. Mongo made sure I'm here to make sure you know what you're supposed to do. And while this is going on, Lois Lane's around the corner is like, oh crap, who's that? Then she sees what's happening. She goes away, but then she comes back with protection because if you know Lois Lane, you know for a fact she might not wear a cape, but she is about that life. Trust me. And this is where our story ends for today. That's all the time I have. But of course, I'll explain more what happens next. Thank you for watching. I am back with the Warworld Saga. Now, the last thing we saw was Superman trying to stop a war between the Atlanteans and the U.S. government. Mongo's men infiltrating the Fortress of Solitude, attacking Thaula and Lois Lane. Now, continuing the story in Action Comics, issue number 1034, Thaula and Lois Lane attacking the prisoners back. And Lois Lane got herself a weapon, so you know she's doing good. However, Mongo's men get the upper hand when one of them gets a power-up, making them stronger than they normally are, knocking back Lois Lane and Thaula. And when they're defeated, Mongo's men go to the other Kryptonians that came with Thaula. And basically, he was like, so since you don't want to do what you're supposed to do, I'm going to unalive these two because you couldn't do your job. And what he does, he basically grabbed your body and just, together. I can't show it because it is pretty graphic. This makes Talal upset to the point where she actually blasts them with her eyes, just incinerating them. Then she's like, I'm sorry, Lois, but I have other people on Warworld. I have to unalive you and your family because this is what I have to do to save them. Now, back to the oceans with the Atlanteans and Superman and the U.S. government. The U.S. government attacks the Atlanteans because, like, I don't know what they're saying, but we better get them before they get us. Just shooting, like, missiles of, well, basically of missiles. Now, Superman acting quick. He destroyed the missiles, and he makes a whole ice wall, so it decreases the chances of the two factions attacking each other. Upset about the whole situation, Superman just flies off and goes straight to where the fragment is, the whole reason that this war might happen. And he's like, if I take this, then we don't have to deal with that. Aquaman's there like, look, I'm here to guard this thing. We know for a fact I can't beat you, but I'm letting you know right now, if you take this is going to change a lot of things between us. There's no going back. Superman then grabs the fragment. He goes flying up in the air, and he looks at both armies and tells them, look, this thing came from Warworld. This is the reason that y'all about to attack each other. I'm not having it. I'm about to take this somewhere where y'all will never find it. Then he just flies away. Now, Superman flies away with his son, John Kent, and Supergirl. And John's like, hold up. I don't hear anything in the fortress. Carl's like, okay, what's wrong with that? He's like, I don't hear a heartbeat. And we know for a fact people are back there. Superman hearing this, all three of them just dash straight to the fortress. And when they get to the fortress, they see Starlight with her hands around Lois' leg. And she's like, look, I'm sorry, but I have to do this to save my people. John from day one was like, it's on sight, and he finally get to throw hands with her. The story continues in Action Comics issue number 1035, where you have Talal and John just basically attacking each other. Superman's able to get Lois out, but Lois is like, listen, we need to stop this because she's fighting for her people. Like, we gotta do something about that. Superman goes back to attack Talal, or at least stop him like, hey, you don't have to do this. Talal's item in her hands like, you have to do this, and his Mongols on the other end. Stressed out about the size that she's taking, she asks Superman to please protect her people, find a way to save them, and then she's on the verge of blacking out. That's all the time I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll explain what happens next later. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Superman taking the fragment and taking it to a secure location. And in Fortress of Solitude, was Talal is being on the verge of passing out because she's being overwhelmed with energy, but before she does, she asks Superman to please go to Warworld and save her people. Now, Superman rushes to grab the ore from Talal because he wants to make sure that if she receives damage, it's not enough to take her life. But at the same time, he's getting a little bit hurt by it, but what he doesn't realize, it sends like an astral-like form of Superman to Warworld right in front of Mongo and his generals. Mongo's like, so I guess I should see you soon, huh? Superman's like, trust, the moment I get there, you are in big trouble. Then his form just disappears. Mongo's like, it is done, basically saying things have been set into place, waiting for him. Now, a few days gone by, Superman has a funeral for the two Kryptonians that were unalived by Mongo's men. And he's like, I never met these men, but when I go to Warworld, I'll try to find a way to know everything I can about them. They will not be forgotten. And Thalal's in a coma, so she's in recovery in a medical center, or whatever the medical center called in the fortress. Some time went by, and there's some knocking on the door. They look to see who it is, and it's Justice League at the door. Now, Superman's like, I guess Lois told y'all, and she's like, yeah, she said that you're about to leave. And he's like, is there any way y'all can help? And then they're like, well, we can't because we still have to work with the world government. So sadly, you're not out to leave, but at the same time, you can't be with us at the moment. So sadly, we have to stay on Earth. But if you're still here and there's a problem, you know we still got your back. Now, while the League was leaving, Batman stayed behind to talk to Clark a little bit more. He's like, so where you put the fragment? Clark's like, look, I put it in a safe location. Trust me when I say you have nothing to worry about. Then Batman reminds Clark, like, hey, your powers are dropping worse than they were before. If you go to Warworld, it might be a one-way trip. Superman's like, you know how I am, Bruce. There's nothing you can say to change my mind. I gotta do this. Then Batman says, well, okay, but some intel told me that it's like you're putting together a team to go to Warworld. So at the bright side, at least you're not going alone. At the same time, though, I still want to know about this team. But that's a video for another day. So this has Clark starting to say his goodbyes to everyone. After the leave, he goes to John. He's like, look, John, everything's going to be okay. But while I'm gone, you should take up the title of Superman for a while and maybe join the league. John's like, you know what, man, forget the league. They kicked you out. Superman's like, look, it's okay. Whatever you decide, I'll be behind your back. Then the last person he says goodbye to is Lois. Now, obviously, Lois is a little worried because she knows the type of threats that he'd be dealing with. But at the same time, he's like, look, Lois, everything's going to be fine. I admit I don't know when I'll be back, but just know that I will be back to you, to John, to this planet. Don't worry. Then, you know, they spent the last moments together in a way where their neighbors are hearing a lot of noises throughout the night. So after the backbreaker was done, he went to his group, the Authority, and they were like, okay, you ready? And Superman's like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's get to it. Now, I'll explain who this team is later in the trade talking. But we are finally going to get into the part where they actually make it a Warworld. Thank you for watching. I'm back with some trade talking, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about Superman and the Authorities. Now, the main reason I want to talk about this trade is solely for the fact that this is actually the team that Superman's bringing into Warworld. Now, I do want to mention there's only a little similarity to the original Authority team that came from Wildstorm. The only members that cross over from this team is really just Apollo and Midnighter. Now, I know most of you are like, wait, but Superman should be strong enough to go to Warworld by himself. You're normally correct, but the problem here is that at this point in time, Superman's power is not as strong as it used to be, and also it's only getting weaker from here. And what makes it worse is the Justice League aren't even able to help him because of what happened in his solo series. So Superman thought maybe I should have my own team that shouldn't even have to worry about the government, then we can just go to Warworld. Now, going over the members, you have Midnighter, who's like Batman, but he was bioengineered to be a superhuman. And on top of that, his mind can pretty much predict what can happen next, especially when it comes to a battle. He's actually pretty smart in ways of tactician and strategist. You have Enchantress, for those who don't know, she has magic, and the series actually does a good job in giving you some extra backstory on Enchantress, or at least give her like a good arc in this. Above her is Manchester Black, and he is one of the most powerful telepaths and telekinetic users on Earth. Now, Manchester was actually part of Superman's rogue gallery, but Superman was actually able to convince him, or at least trying to throughout the series. Then you have Apollo, which his power is like Superman's, but his is more solar based, and I mean that in a way that is like he can release energy, but he needs to absorb solar rays for it to happen, and he actually needs to be in the sun a little bit longer than Superman. Then you have Natasha Honors, aka Steel, and she actually has an exoskeleton suit, or basically armor, somewhat like Iron Man and such, but she's also the niece of the original Steel, John Henry Irons. Now, this character here is OMAC. OMAC has an exoskeleton that increases their physical attributes, making them super stronger, able to jump higher, and more durable. Now, this character right here is Light Ray. Light Ray has light-based powers, but she mainly uses it to increase her speed, making her seem like a speedster. OMAC and Light Ray are not from the original universe, as they're from the Tangent universe. In the Tangent universe, it's more like newer characters, but use the same name as the original universe. Now, the best example I can use is the Superman of this universe goes by Superman, but his real name is Harvey Dent. All in all, I think if you want to read Warworld, you should definitely read this, especially to know about the people that are with Superman, or at least that are in the Authority. I would say the only downside to this is that everybody don't really get a chance to shine, but there are some good fight scenes and some good villains that appear. Personally, I felt like they were trying to have another Batman the Outsider, but just Superman the Authorities, and I think they were trying to test to see if this would work. I don't think it did because we haven't heard nothing back from this team after Warworld, but it is what it is. So the trade only has like 4 issues in it, so it shouldn't take that long to read. And it is on the DC online app, so you don't really have to get it physically. But I do recommend reading it, especially if you want to know about the team that's going with Superman. And that's all I got for this video. Thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw was Superman and the Authority heading to Warworld, starting off the second part of the story. Now, the story continues in Action Comics 1036. So the issue starts off on a random planet, and the aliens chilling in the garden. Another person just comes up like, hey, sorry to disturb you, but I gotta tell you something. Guy's like, oh, ain't nothing wrong, man. What is it? Then he's like, hey, so we just got a message. These people called Passalonians. I know for a fact I'm saying it wrong. However, the other alien that was already there just started panicking a little bit. He tells him, hey, don't ever tell anyone that you heard this word. The word doesn't exist. You know what? Just get out of here. And I swear you tell anyone, I will hurt you and come after your mama. His mama did nothing though. Then we ship to the ship where Superman and the Authorities are heading to Warworld, and you can tell like a lot of times went by, but everyone's just chilling, you know, just getting ready for the fight. Now, when they get to Warworld, you see that it looks like a very dangerous place to be. Superman tells them, you see that stuff around the planet? That's debris from people just attacking each other. This planet has a lot of tribes, factions that are always at war with each other, but Mongol, he's the leader himself. So no matter what, he's the head honcho of this entire planet. Now, at some point, Superman sees like a body just in space, and he pays his respect because he is a person that's nice like that. But then one of the authorities is like, okay, I see that Superman sigil on the planet. It looks like they're calling for us, and they head to it. And when they go to that place, they see that the stranger from earlier in the story, a hologram of him was there. And when he's like, hey, Superman, I'm glad you're here, but you're here a little bit too late. They see past the hologram. You see a trail of Kryptonians leading the way to where Mongol is. I'm sorry, bodies of Kryptonians leading to where Mongol is. And they all had the Superman logo on their chest. Mongol knew what he was doing. You know for a fact Superman's straight mindset is like it's on sight. Because that's just so disrespectful. Out of nowhere, some raiders attacked them. Like it really was an issue. Superman and the Authority made short work of them, and then they destroyed a statue of Mongol since it was the closest thing, and Superman was really pissed off. When they got to the Coliseum, they dropped Mongol's head like, boom, you looking for this? Superman standing in the middle of the Coliseum flying, and he's like, look, I am here to free all of you. You do not need to have Mongol as your leader. I will take him away from y'all so y'all are safe. But then, out of nowhere, is Mongol's generals, Shady, might be saying it wrong, but basically he's like, look, I have the longest chain, so I won the most battles. I served a Mongol who's now, but I served 4 Mongols before him. I am the oldest one here because anyone older than me, I already beat. Trust me when I say you chose the wrong planet to be on. But then Manchester Black comes up and like, okay, either you're pulling the strings or you're just the only person Mongol sends. And he's like, oh, who says I'm the only one? Out pops some porter. You have someone named a teacher, mother, orphan, darling, the unmade, who was already unalive, so it's gonna be hard to beat him. He's like, yo, we are Mongols champions. One of them attacks Superman, but the authorities are like, wait, why does Superman look so weak? The Mongols like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. The thing that energized our planet is a red sun. One of your weaknesses. Welcome to Warworld. Oh, the next video is gonna be crazy. Thanks for watching. I'm back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw was Mongol telling Superman that he knew for a fact that he was getting weaker by the minute, and welcome to Warworld. Now, the story continues in Action Comics issue 1037. The issue starts off with the United Planets having a meeting, talked about the whole Warworld event. Basically, Superman actually asked them for help, and they didn't really give an answer just yet. Now, before they had this final decision, one of them that actually showed in the last issue said, okay, so we could help Superman, but at the same time, though, what if he doesn't win? This is a whole different Mongol. What if that Mongol wins, and then we lose our man, and then they attack us? What if Superman actually falls this time? Then we go back to the arena. Mongol tells the champions, hey, y'all can fight whoever y'all want in this arena. Y'all can unalive me if y'all want, but Superman, that's for me and me only. Superman looking at Mongol's like, look, I faced your daddy. Trust me when I say it's going to end the same way as I faced him. Mongol's like, huh, I'm not a Mongol who's a fool. Then they start squaring up. And while those two are fighting, Manchester Black tells the Chancellors, hey, you better get this one because I know for a fact she's going to be one of the biggest problems. And Chancellor is like, okay, I don't know what I can do, but I can try my best. You know, magic on magic. Now, Enchantress made a magical snake eat her up, and basically is going to the ground, but then June was like, wait, something's not right. The champion mother comes back, she gobbles up Enchantress, go back to the ground, like, I'm stronger than you think I am. Now, Natasha Honor is like, oh no, we have to save her. Apollo Midnight is like, look, we can save her another time. We have to get Mongo. Once he's down, everybody else can go down. Now, 3 of them try to go towards Mongo. Apollo, being the only flyer of the 3, goes faster, but then out of nowhere, the Unmade champion just blocks his way. Once Apollo makes contact with the Unmade just knocks him down to the ground. Midnight is like, okay, it takes a lot of power to knock down Apollo. Baby, you're all right. Apollo's like, don't worry, babe, I'm okay. Trust me, I'll get him the next time. Now, when Apollo tried to attack the Unmade again, Unmade was too quick for him, then he just skewers him from the front. I can't show us a little bit too graphic, but basically, Apollo's out. Watching from distant is the champion teacher. Right behind him is Manchester Black, and Manchester said, I see. So you're controlling Unmade. Teacher's like, I see you're smart. Yeah, I got this. Manchester knocks it out of his hand. Manchester grabs a stick and he started beating him like Joker beating Jason Todd, because he's not wasting time in this. Now back to the fight with Mongo Superman. Mongo tells him, you're getting weaker than you think you are, solely for the fact that the thing that powers up our planet is a red sun, one of Superman's weaknesses. So of course that's going to weaken him at a much faster rate. Then Omac and Light try to get into the fight, but then the mechanical champion Darling comes in, and Light says, oh wait, why is there a baby with it? I need to save it. Omac's like, wait, hold up, but it's too late. When you grab the baby's like, oh yeah, I'm the champion orphan and you should not have done that. Darling just grabs Light Ray and just smash her to the ground. As she's laid there being unalive, Superman looks over, he's distracted. Mongo just stabs him from the back. Can't show it because it's a little bit too graphic. But round 1 goes to Mongo. The watching this at the meeting, but yet one guy smirks, which means we got a traitor in the mess. Done for the story for now, but I'll explain more later. Thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Light Ray being unalive, Mongo being Superman while he's stabbing him in the back, and learning that there might be a traitor in the United Planets. Our story continues in Action Comics issue 1038. Now the issue starts off with Mongo showing off Superman being broken and beaten throughout the Coliseum. Omac and Natasha were able to get out of their restraints and try to go for Darling, the champion that took out Light Ray. However, they were blasted by none other than Mongo, just Ore Farmer right here. Now Mongo makes a big speech saying, I have beaten Superman, I have bested his allies, and the United Planets have no idea what's coming to them because I plan on expanding the Warworld so it's not just one planet. For most of his allies, I'll get to my champions and they can do whatever they like. But these two, since they love to fight, they can find in my arena from now on. Now, at this point, since Superman is now Mongo's slave, Mongo makes him do something he doesn't like, which is take a life. And he tells him, all right, so I need you to do your first order. I need you to take this guy's life. Solely for the fact that even though he works for me, he's the one that got your ally Midnight away. Meaning that Midnight is just out there right now. So then he gives Superman the axe. Superman grabs that axe, he takes a swing, but then he threw it at the chains that's holding Light Ray. And he tells Light Ray, this isn't where your story ends. I'll make sure your unalivement isn't in vain. And as he's crying, Mongo just attacks him from the back, knocking him out. Then the story shows Natasha Irons getting her chains, and with the person that's making chains, like, you have won 2 battles, so you get 2 links in your chain. May you win as many battles as possible so you can have one of the longest chains ever. And as you can see with the minions on the side, that they are seen as something to be praised about. The next thing we see are 2 jailers throwing Superman in a cell, and they're mocking him as they walk away. Then other people in the cell are like, huh, this is Superman. Interesting. One of them, Krelux, is like, huh, this is Superman for all the good it does us. Then 2 kids try to, like, jack Superman for whatever's on him. Then Superman just wakes up. Then the kids just attack him like, stop. This is when Superman realizes that he found the other Phalosians, the same offshoot Kryptonians that Thalas's part of. Might be saying the name wrong, though. And as the guy that he tried to know the name so he can, like, at least try to calm the tension down and try to get to know him better. In another part of Warworld, a stranger walks by a tribe, and they're like, oh, I see that we got food. But then the stranger's like, yeah, put you on fire, and it's Midnighter as he looking for some friends of his. Obviously Superman. Now when Midnighter gets to Superman, he tells him, hey, so we can get your power back by destroying the Red Sun. But Superman is like, if you do that, you'll destroy the majority of the planet, and then a lot of people lose their lives. Midnighter goes off to Superman like, we lost a lot coming here. We lost one of our members doing this. What is wrong with you? Superman's like, I came here to free everyone, not just the people that are on our side. Even without power, I do my best to at least give hope. But across from Superman, you see a prisoner saying hope, and he starts writing the Superman logo in the sand, showing that we might actually have a rebellion soon. But that's all the time I got for now. Of course, I'll get to this later. Thanks for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Superman finally meets the Phalosians, which was the lost tribe of Krypton. It may not have been upset at Superman, but telling him that he's going to find a way to give him his powers back. Now, our story continues in Action Comics issue 1039. We start off our story with Omak, Natasha, and a few of the Kryptonians fighting off against beasts in the arena. They're having trouble with the biggest one there. However, this guy right here, that's Superman. And he's doing his best to knock it down. But even without powers, he's able to show that he can do it. Now, after the battle, they went to see the locksmith because since they won a match, that they get like an extra link in their chain, making it longer. Some of the men talk to Omak and they're like, hey, so you fight really good. How about we talk to some higher ups and see if we can put you in a better position, but only if you're not with Superman. And Omak's like, yeah, because of what happened to Light Ray in my bay, I'm not with him anymore. So when it gets to Natasha's turn, she tells the blacksmith, so just letting you know, I'm a blacksmith from where I'm from, so if you need any extra hands, I mean, I can help out. But also, it'd be nice if I can make myself some my own armor and weapons. So blacksmith is like, I don't know, you're with Superman. But if you say you're good, you are, I can see if I can ask any higher ups, as long as you're not making any weapons that will overthrow Mongol. Then we go off to a Superman in the cell, and he's talking to somebody else, and he's like, oh wait, you're a Phalosian the way you speak like the others. The guy's like, yeah, don't call me that, because it doesn't matter. When we came to Warworld, I lost my entire family. I'm just cannon fodder. Like, it really doesn't matter. Also, I see the way you fight. I'm letting you know right now, you need to change that up. Because if you want to survive here, you need to fight like you're from here. Then some jailers brought Superman and some other prisoners down deep inside Warworld's underground system. Now, they did this because there's a ritual where they will go to the last of a specific species on its way to extinction, and they'll be there until it just becomes unalive. And they just push into deeper underground where it just gets eaten by bigger monsters. And this was a way to show the prisoners that it's like any species we come across, we'll make sure they go into extinction, especially if they're in our way, because we are warriors like that. While they're walking back up, they pass by some scriptures on the wall. Now the blood priests are saying, oh, this is from Mongol's word, you know, like the propaganda and stuff like that. Superman is like, I recognize this writing. They don't actually understand what this means. They're just pretending to know what it means. But if I see this enough times, I know for a fact I'm going to understand what this means. Then when they pass Natasha tells Superman, man, where you been? Superman's like, trust me, you don't want to know. But then she gives him like a piece of armor saying, I thought you might need this. Which we won't see until later, but it's pretty much a Superman symbol. Superman sees the prisoner he was talking to earlier, Kryux, might be saying it wrong. And he throws him a weapon, and he basically says, you're right, I need to learn how to survive here. Teach me the way to fight of a war warrior. The story shifts to Midnight, and he with some locals, and they're telling him that it's like, well, we can't break this person out because there's too many of Mongol's men. But he's like, oh, don't worry. I just need to know where he is. We'll break him out later. And this is where we learned that Midnight finally found Apollo. That's all the time I got. We'll continue in the next video, but thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Omak getting the offer to join Mongol's forces, Natasha Irons working with the blacksmith, Superman on the ground seeing text that he knows that he can read in time, and Midnight fighting Apollo. Our story continues in Action Comics issue number 1040. Now the issue starts with Superman and his allies fighting in the arena, and they're doing a pretty good job of it. However, after the fight, Mongol comes out of the arena, and the two Kryptonian children, Ultra Ra being this girl and Also Ra being this boy. might be getting a name wrong. Now, when Mongo walk up to him, they're starstruck because it's like, this is their hero. There's like, we want to be just like you when we grow up. And Mongo's like, well, I had to take out my brothers, so you should take out yours if you want to be like me. Otto's like, wait, what? Mongo's like, never mind. I see you're not really about that. Boy, you want to do it? Oso's like, I don't want to do that either. Superman and Omac are like, oh crap. Then as Mongo's about to take out these kids, and he's like, you know what? Y'all ain't really worth being in my arena. Superman's like, no. He tackles Mongo. Then Mongo's like, I see you ready to fight today, huh? Now the two go at it. Superman looks like he has the upper hand, but then Mongo reverses on him. Then he's able to beat him. Now as Mongo's walking away, you hear like a chant going behind him. But then his general, Shatil, might be saying it wrong. He says, Mongo, you really need to take him out. Mongo's like, look, I'm not going to turn him to a martyr, so you can get that out of your mind. Shatil's like, no, you don't understand. Every time he rises, he gets more people on his side. He's influencing the longer he's here. Mongo's like, look, I'm not taking him out. I'm trying to take over the United Planets. It won't work with him being unalive. Then we shift to where Omac's at, and she's with one of Mongo's generals, a teacher. And he's like, look, we can bring your loved one back, but you have to be on our side to work for us. And it's starting to look like Omac's turning to the dark side. Then to the prisons, Superman's trying to talk to the kids, but the kids are like, look, don't talk to us like we're children. We are Mongo's men. We are war zones. Superman's like, okay, enough of that foolishness. You come from descendants of scientists and explorers, not gladiators and pirates. You are so much more to what Mongo is telling you. After he gets done talking, Natasha comes to him like, hey, Midnighter sends you a message saying it's happening. Superman's like, the hell are you talking about? And Midnighter basically said, we're going to destroy a Star Forge. After that, you'll get your powers back. So Superman's like, I told him not to do that because if he does that, innocent people are going to be gone. Then the Kryptonian Cryok said, wait, I might have another possible way. He takes Superman underground to a place called Necropolis, and he's like, it holds a really big secret and it holds much power. Superman's like, I feel this energy before is from the fragment stone that was earlier in the story. And then Superman hears something, then he realizes, oh crap, there's a lot of people down here. We need to go back. And he needs to go back because Mongo's want the two kids, but not alive. That's all the time I got for now. I'll continue later. Thank you for watching. All right, I have a little bit more time than I thought I would. But I just want to say we should be past the halfway point of this. I know there's like a few more issues besides the Action Comic stuff. But yeah, I do this issue by issue just because it's easier. But yeah, thank you for watching. We are back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Superman inspiring a rebellion, Omac being offered to join Mongo's forces in exchange for Light Ray to come back to life for her, Superman learning of a power source from a place called Necropolis, and he needs to rush back to protect two Kryptonian children. Now, our story continues in Action Comics issue 1041. Now, the issue starts off in a flashback where some of Mongo's men are attacking this one guy on the planet. Now, they're attacking him because he was telling the children tales of Superman and is making Superman look good when Mongo's obviously wants everyone on the planet to look up to him rather than anybody else. But then out of nowhere, you have a portal that opens up behind them and just grabs this one Mongol soldier and just attacks him with a hook. Who's on the other end of the portal? It's Midnighter. And this flashback is actually the day that Midnighter escaped. Now, as days go by, Midnighter is trying to figure out a way to get Apollo safe and get his allies out. But they're in the process when he's attacking Mongols, man, they're like, oh crap, it's Superman. But then Midnighter's like, okay, I'm getting tired of people calling me Superman. Batman, I can understand. But Superman, yeah, I'm not feeling that. Now, while Midnighter's on Warworld, he does free some prisoners here and there. And it does help the rebellion, or his rebellion that he's pretty much is starting besides Superman. And when he breaks her chain, she's like, how can you break my chain? This shows the amount of battles I won. And he's like, those chains really don't mean anything. But if you want to show me what you're made of, how about you join me, but without the chains? Now, when you see this page, you see lunar rotation 17, 29, 36, 45. A lunar rotation in Warworld is basically a whole day that goes by. So as you can see, Superman been on this planet a good amount of time. Now, as the days go by, you can also see that the rebellion is actually showing more Superman sigils, or I forgot what we call it. His logo, basically. Showing his logo around, showing that it's like more people are starting to believe in him more and more. Then you have Midnighter interrogating this guy on how to free Apollo because, again, he knows where Apollo is, but he doesn't know how to free him. This guy does not want to spill, but Midnighter's like, look, I'm going to take your life no matter what, but I want to let you know we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Now, this guy from earlier, he's telling kids a story about Superman, basically helping the rebellion, because where he's at now, he's in a place where Midnighter's men are, so they have like at least a safe haven before like the actual uprising starts. One of the stories, he's telling them about the time he faced Doomsday, and another time, which I don't know exactly what that is up there, but I'm pretty sure it's related to Wonder Woman. Now, in the middle of his stories, one person's like, oh, it's Midnighter, he's back. Oh, I have a name. His name's Balon. I might be saying that wrong. And while he's talking to Midnighter, Midnighter got upset when he called him Superman because he's tired of being compared to him, especially with the fact that it's like, In his mind, he let Apollo get chained up and let Light Ray be unalive. Midnighter was interrupted as someone said, look, we need to go to the arena pits because they're about to be attacked. Midnighter was like, alright, bet, I'm on my way. This is when we find out that OMAC took the offer to join Mongo's forces for Light Ray. But before they can do anything to the prisoners, Midnighter and Superman managed to get there just in time. That's all the time I got for this video. I'll continue the story later on, but thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw is that OMAC joins Mongol forces mainly because of Light Ray, and Superman and Midnighter started fighting back. Now the story continues in Action Comics issue 1042. Now the issue starts off in the Fortress of Solitude where Dala is still in recovery and Lois Lane is just near her, just doing some research and just doing some reading. John Kent comes to the fortress to check on his mom, also to check on Dala, see how she's doing. Plus, while Clark is away, he's the Superman of Earth right now. However, the problem is that Dala is suffering from seizures, but she needs to be exposed to some energy from this fragment in smaller doses. They don't know where Superman put it, but Lois Lane's like, I think I might know where it is. Then back to Warworld, Superman and Midnighter are back at the prisons, making sure to free as many people as they can while fighting off Mongo's forces. And this is when Superman and Midnighter find out that OMAC's working with Mongo, and one of his generals, the teacher, is there. And this is where we find out the whereabouts of Manchester Black, as the teacher is the one that had him, and sadly, he's the one running experiments on him, and he's one of the reasons that he's able to create this big beast. Superman faces off against OMAC. OMAC's still upset about the whole situation, because it's like, you never told us that you were getting weaker, you let Light Ray be unalive, how dare you do this to us? And Superman is like, look, I know there's some things I kept from you, but I did not mean that in malice. I just wanted you to know that. Superman looks to the side. He sees Cryolix, might be getting his name wrong, but he sees Cryolix about to get attacked by the beast. He swoops in, save him, he jumps in and save him. And as they're getting back up, Cryolix is like, okay, I see this beast and I see that there's a device in it. Just letting you know it's called an orphan box. If you grab that, it will definitely change the tide of the battle. OMAC tried to go after Superman again, but to no avail. And OMAC's like, look, I'm just doing this for Light Ray because I love her so much. I just want her to be safe. Superman's like, I'm sorry, but I'll make sure you see her again. Then they hear a voice in the distance, and it don't sound good. Why? Because it's Mongo riding his own beast. However, this time, Superman doesn't go after Mongols. He goes straight for the device and Teacher's Beast. He does something to it, then there's just this big glow that's coming from it. Then the scene shifts to Steelworks HQ, aka the laboratory of John Henry Irons, aka Steel. And this is where Lois went, because she figured that John Henry would actually be one of the few people that Superman would trust with the fragment. Well, trust and able to protect, and not that much into the Justice League. And Lois is telling him about Thala, but he also explains that it's like, there's something about the energy coming off the fragment, and it's kind of alive. So we're kind of dealing with a sentient type of energy. And while they're talking, energy from the fragment is actually spiking up to the point where it's starting to glow really bright. And then they start hearing voices from it. Then they realize that they recognize voice, the voice being Superman. And this means two things. One, the fact that Superman is alive. And two, that something big is coming. But they don't know what yet. That's all the time I got for this video. Of course, I'll continue the story later on, but thank you for watching. I do want to mention that John L. does have his own solo series while this story is being made. So there is a Superman on Earth still. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga. No recap this time because there's a lot to say in 3 minutes. So our story continues in Action Comics issue 1043. Now this issue starts off with Superman and his allies attacking Mongo's men, and this time they're heading towards the Citadel, where Mongo's general, the teacher, is, and he has Manchester Black here as well. Knowing that Superman is near, he actually planned to take out Manchester, but Superman manages to get there in time. However, the other generals, Orphan and Darling, are with him, and Teachers has them to go attack him. However, Superman and his allies were able to separate Orphan from Darling, making Orphan useless, and they use a device on Darling, making Darling just, as a machine, just stop in his tracks. And they were able to free Manchester Black. And in addition to the teacher, they're able to take out 3 of Mongo's top generals in one fell swoop. The story then shifts to Mongo and the stranger from earlier. Now, they're talking, and Mongo's like, okay, so they took the teacher, that's a big problem. But then the stranger's like, oh man, that sucks, man. But we really gotta get the Necropolis for you. The Mongo's like, bro, you're the one that told me to get Superman here. You're the one that got me the fragment to give to Superman to get him here. But because I listened to you, I brought Superman here, where he's causing a rebellion, taking out my man, causing more trouble. But you know what? It's fine. That just means I need more men. And in the background, you see Apollo. And what one of Mongo's men said to Apollo is, hey, you see that planet up there? You see a peaceful village over there? Well, we need to go there real quick. And this kind of shows that they managed to brainwash Apollo, making him on Mongo's side along with OMAC. So then the scene shifts to where the peaceful village is, but then they look into the side to see a circle. It's like, oh no, they're coming. We need to hide. showing Mongo's forces about to attack this village most likely turned them into his soldiers. Then the scene shifts to where Superman and his allies are just having a meeting on what to do next. Even though they have the orphan doesn't really talk and they need questions. They want to ask Man Shazam Black when he wakes up. Midnight is like, well, we have to do something. Then they learn that it's like they moved Apollo, his boot, and he's like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. We need to do something now. Then someone said, oh, so our ally Cryolux, if I'm saying it wrong, he actually managed to find Enchantress. However, the problem is that Enchantress is with Mongo's general, the mother, which she actually helped Mongo, who is now become empowered the way he is, and take out his father. So then Mongo has a meeting with one of the members of the United Planets, which again, secretly, because he's backstabbing Superman. And basically you find out that it's like, he's trying to ask Mongo to stop taking territory, but Mongo's like, look, I'll take whatever I want, but if you ask me again, I'm gonna take over your world next. Back at the Rebel base, Superman talks to Bala, and Bala explains to Superman what the power source in Necropolis is. And it's basically an energy from an old god. And if they manage to figure out the puzzle within Warworld, then they might be able to achieve it. In another scene, we're seeing that a rebel base is being prepared for a Mongol invasion. However, moments later, Mongol's forces are already there. And that's all the time I got for this video. Of course, I'll continue later on, but thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga. And in this video, I'm actually going to continue the issue that I was talking about in the last video, because there was actually two stories. The first story was about the original Warworld Saga, but the second part was more on the origins of the whole concept of Mongol. Now, continuing in the issue, Action Comics, issue number 1043. So our story starts off in the Rebel base, and Bela, definitely saying his name wrong, is telling some children about the origins of Mongol. Because Mongol is actually a title, it's not actually a name, at least in recent canon as far as I can tell. A long time ago on the planet, where even the name of the planet is gone, that you have like a race called the Warzone. They're basically a savage tribe of hunters and scavengers that pretty much scavenge anything that they can find to eat. They mainly look out for themselves, but they do praise something, because each one of them is different. They'll praise the sky, they'll praise the sun, or they'll just praise themselves. Or if something falls from the sky, they'll definitely be praising that. So when the meteor came down, you had one of the Warzones named Crowin, or at least translated Crowin. He goes to see what it is because he's very curious about it. And when he gets there, he finds that there's an alien race there that's highly more advanced than anything he ever seen. But when the creature looks back at Crowin, he looks at him with so much disgust that he understood what that meant, even if they don't speak the same language. He sees him as lesser than him, and this made Crowin very upset. Upset to the point where he just grabs a big rock and just, unalive him. Now, he looks at his armor, he's like, I might need this. Now, he looks at his armor and he's like, I love this. I'm taking this. He's not using it. Wearing the armor made him feel like a god, very powerful. And this is when the term Mongol was born, as Mongol in their language means the strongest. He was so strong that no one ever wanted to fight him, except his son, who was the only person that was actually able to beat him. How many sons he has is never really said. Now, the son replacing the father tradition has been going on for centuries. However, every Mongol had one goal in mind, and that was to find the power of Necropolis. However, they can never find it, especially with the fact that Warworld itself was like a huge puzzle that they had to solve to get the power in the first place. And this is when Bela tells the children that the reason that Mongol hunts us is really just in his nature. It's not because he hates y'all, it's just what he knows. But he'll never find Necropolis, hopefully solely for the fact that it changes its shape, so it's not that easy to find. The kids are confused by this, but then he tells them, what could an old storyteller know of such mysteries? Then that's where the issue ends. And that's all I got for this issue. Thank you for watching, and of course, I'll continue the story in another video. One thing I do want to say, that the next issue is like an annual, so we'll actually get like a short story of Superman and the origins of this version of Mongol, but I'll just have that in 2 parts, so I don't have to cram everything in just one video. I am back with my Superman Warworld Saga, but this time I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different. So the Action Comics 2022 annual issue actually gave a tale of Superman's past and gave us the origins of Mongol, but I want to put this in 2 different videos so I don't cram everything in 3 minutes. For this one, we're going with Superman. So when he was younger, he was playing Little League Soccer. I'm just playing that. But anyway, he used his powers during the game, and Mom Kent saw that, and she actually asked him, why would you do that? Because, it's kind of cheating a little bit, and you want to make it fair for everybody. And while Martha was talking to Clark, that this kid right here named Caleb, that he understood that he cheated somehow, but of course, he didn't know exactly what. Now, Clark did tell her that Caleb was a bully in the class, and he was being rude on the field, but at the same time, Martha you still can't do that even if he is a bully. Clark does apologize, and Martha does forgive him, but Caleb was still upset, so he kicked the soccer ball right at him. The soccer ball hits Martha in the back of the head, and the wig falls off. This is when we find out that Martha has cancer. Clark's about to throw hands, and then Mother reminds him, you can get into a fight, but the best thing that can happen is he breaks his hand on your jaw. And trust me when I say, even though you're stronger than him, you still don't want to hurt him like that, so just let it be. That night, Clark was still upset, scheming, planning on what to do next, so he sneaks out to go to Caleb's place. What Clark was going to do was he was really just going to take his bike and probably just put it somewhere, but then he heard that it's like Caleb's dad was very, how to say this, he was boxing with his son without a handicap, pretty much. And Clark felt like, oh, he kind of understand where Caleb's coming from. So when Caleb's dad went to go drive away, he was drunk and he fell asleep on the road and he was about to go in oncoming traffic. But Clark, being the good kid that he is, he got in the way of the car, stopping it and saving Caleb's dad in the process. The same night, Clark go by the hospital where Martha is, and her doctor's saying, well, you're halfway through chemotherapy. Like, everything looks good, but at the same time, you can never know. Martha's like, well, I understand. Sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches. And never take anything for granted, but always appreciate the little things. Now, even though Clark wants to do something nice for his mother, like cutting off his hair to give to her, that nothing works because his hair is still super strong, and neither scissors or chainsaws help. At the next soccer game, Clark sees that some kid were picking on Caleb. Then he tries to stop him, but then Caleb got upset saying, don't you dare stick up for me. He tried to hit Clark, but Clark was, remember what Martha said, let Caleb hit him, but make sure that it looks in a way where that he got hurt. Caleb started picking on Clark some more, but then they both boys realized that Caleb was turning to his dad, and Clark was telling him that you're not your dad, you don't have to be like him. Sometime later, they go back to the hospital, and we find out that Ma Kent is in remission for cancer, so she should be fine for now. But then they hear a voice saying, excuse me, and it's Caleb, and he really just wanted to apologize for what he did, and he even cut off his hair for Martha, showing that he's trying to be a better person. Several years later, you see Clark checking up on Caleb when they're adults, and you find out that he works at a youth outreach center, helping kids that were in the situation that he was in. That's all the time I got for this video. I'll go on the manga side in the next one, but thank you for watching. I'm back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and in this video, I'm going to do the second story of the issue, Action Comics 2022 Annual, that gives us the secret origin of this version of manga. So straight off the bat, it's basically hell for this kid because he's in a Royal Rumble with other kids, and all of these kids are son of the Mongol at the moment, basically his father. His mom giving him crap because he didn't want to hit an opponent while he wasn't looking. However, if he's one of the weakest of this group, then he's going to be exiled from his tribe. His backstory is very graphic, so I have to cut some stuff out. But another one of the mothers was giving his mother crap. Is like, oh man, your kid hesitate. Oh yeah, he's definitely ain't coming back here. Our manga's mother got upset to the point where she just stabbed this other mother because it's like, look, I'm getting tired of you talking crap to me. So even though she was about to life, sadly, our manga was yet to be about that life. So because they were deemed the weakest, that they were kicked out, mother included. And she was like, all right, we finna get our get backs. Just wait. Just wait. So now they had to fend for themselves after on alone, just the two of them. Now, his mother was able to find some type of creature to eat on, and he was trying to get some, but then his mother was like, nah, this one's mine. If you want something, you need to go out there and fight them on your own. Now, you see that there were some wolf-like creatures behind him, so the monk was like, well, I'm hungry, so he just takes something to attack it with. Moments later, Mongo cut up with his mother with the creature on his back, and he's like, well, I have food now. The scavenger came, you're right about that. But, you know, you need to eat, get your strength up. And his mother was upset about the fact that he was caring for her when really you shouldn't be caring for anybody but yourself. Because sadly, that's a Warzone way. Time went by and they managed to get into the territory of some scavengers. The scavengers found them and they were about to attack them. But then Mongo's mother was like, yeah, I'm the mate of Mongo and this is the son of Mongo. Scavengers like, yeah, we don't care. We just going to eat on y'all because we're hungry. But then they hear a big noise in the distance and they see a giant creature called a bull mammoth that was hunting them. Mongo's mother tried to attack it, but she got caught in one of his teeth, or tendrils, I don't know what that's called. But then that made Mongo angry. Mongo charged at the beast ate him, but Mongo kept stabbing him through the inside of his body, taking it out. Walking out the creature like a badass, he goes straight to his dying mother. And his mother gives him a knife and says, use this to protect yourself. And Mongo would talk to his mom like, why would you save me when you told me it's not the Warzone way of life? Why? And she tells him that I want you to take out your father because he's the reason that we're in this situation in the first place. Then he said, I will. Then he gets unalive his mother, taking her out of her misery. Several years went by and he went back to his original tribe. And those men are like, yeah, you don't belong here. The manga just straight up takes this guy out. And he was like, all right, just let me pass. Other members like, how dare you do it? But then Mongo's like, hey, this one got in my way. Look what y'all did to him. I can do the same to you. And they just let him go by. They recognized the knife because it belonged to his mother. Then they realized who he was. And he was like, yeah, she was a Warzone, but she betrayed us because a Warzone does not protect. And he went straight to go unalive his dad. That's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching. And of course, I'll continue the story later on. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga. And the last thing we saw, Apollo was brainwashed into working with Mongo. They have one of Mongo's generals orphaned, but they can't get him to talk. But they are going after the next general mother next because she's the one that has the Enchantress. And the power of the Necropolis that they're looking for is from an old god, or at least a fragment of an old god. Our story continues in Action Comics issue 1044. Now the issue starts with Superman, Manchester Black, and some other allies trying to figure out what Orphan knows, but they can't really get any information, or at least for now. But us as the reader, we actually get information. And we learned that just like in the past, that this race or these group of explorers, one woman being pregnant, and that's actually the orphan inside her belly, that they go by the source wall, which if you know Fourth God Lord, then you're pretty much caught up on that. But they go near it. However, while they were there, the source wall cracked because of the events from Justice League No Justice, taking most of their lives. However, the mechanical creature that was with them actually managed to take the womb of the woman and make sure the orphan was still alive because of how much they loved the race. Time later, Mongo and his general, the teacher, found a ship, and they used the technology from this ship to better their own technology and new tech. And they made generals out of the orphan and the darling. Superman asked the orphan about the object called the orphan box, and the orphan said, oh, it's not really a teleporter, it's more something that transcends, and you might actually need a fragment to do some more with it, but I can definitely help you with getting Enchantress. And Superman's like, well, I don't have the fragment, but I know someone that can help. Sometime later at the Rebel base, the Kryptonian children, Osol and Otsu, definitely saying them wrong, go through Superman's stuff. But then Superman sees them and they're like, oh, we're sorry. But he's like, oh, no, it's fine. This object is actually a toy that I had that I was going to give to John. Well, he has one of his own. But I kind of wanted to give it to you so he has something to Krypton. Switching the scene to Mongo, he's talking to his priest and they're like, we're trying to bring this person back to life, but it's kind of hard because they've been gone for so long. Omac's like, you promise you will bring her back. Come on, what's taking so long? Mongo just blast them. Mongo's like, how dare you disrespect me? I am Mongo who is. No one is stronger than me. Come at me again and you'll understand we might have to revive two bodies. Switching the scene now for Superman. Now Superman and his ally manages to get into the mother's base and to see Enchantress, but not Mother. However, when he gets to Enchantress, she's like, oh no, she's here. Then out of nowhere, Mother pops up, giving them a fight. Orphan actually helps him out. And just when it seemed like Mother was about to have the upper hand, Superman and Orphan work together to beat her. But then she tried to go to Mongo, saying, remember I helped you take out your father, you owe me promises, and you better keep them. Mongo's like, yeah, your usefulness is down to zero now. I'm done with you. Throws a spear and unalive Mother. Next thing Mongo does is he put Light Ray inside of all the chemicals, showing Omac that he's about to bring her back. However, Light Ray didn't exactly come back perfect, but now we have Mongo's new general, Black Razor. That's all I got for this video. I'll continue later on, but thank you for watching. I'm back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Mongo General Orphan is now on Superman's side. They managed to beat his other general, Mother, and Mongo made a new general out of Light Ray's body called Black Razor. Now our story continues in Action Comics issue 1045. Now Rebel Base just got attacked by Mongo's forces, but who's in these forces is Black Razor, Omac, and Apollo. Now Superman and his allies got hurt so bad that they had to have a meeting on what to do next. They're on the verge of giving up, and they even said that it's like Mongo's not just coming for them, they're coming from the Necropolis to get the power that's in it. They're about to talk about blowing up the Red Star and the planet again until Natasha's like, how about we steal it instead? So I've been talking with my uncle, aka Steel, along with Orphan, and we came up with a plan on changing the chemicals in the Red Star, therefore making it into the yellow sun. That way we don't blow up the planet in the process, and also giving Superman his powers back. But during the meeting, Superman was also in the process of thinking about maybe I shouldn't get the power in the Necropolis. Cryolux, on the other end, was like, look, we really need this power source. How about you actually stop debating it and we get this power source? Superman's like, you're right. All right, you do this, you do this. Natasha, you and Orphan find a way to change the star. Me, Cryolux, we're going to go and see if we can get the power source. Before the meeting ended, Midnighter told Superman and Cryolux to take the two Kryptonian children with them because if anything goes south, they'll be the safest with both of them. While Mongo's forces are advancing, Omac tries to talk to Black Razor to see if her love is still there. Black Razor, however, doesn't say anything at all, just going about their business, just doing what Mongo says, showing that it's definitely not Leah, this is Black Razor, a completely new person altogether. Then this shows that Omac is really contemplating their choices right now. Now Natasha, Orphan, and the blacksmith are on their way to change the star. However, Mongo's general teacher was already there, and he managed to brainwash Darling to not even listen to the Orphan at all, attacking Orphan and his new allies. And the teacher also managed to bring some of his minions along to make sure it goes his way. Now while the Kryptonians are going through the lower level of Warworld looking for the power of Necropolis, one of the kids asked Superman if he's willing to bring them back with him to Earth. And this shocks him because he really wasn't expecting them to ask him this. But he says, of course, I would take y'all with me and I would adopt you into my family. At some point, they reach the door. Carlos was like, this door wasn't here before, kind of showing that it's like Necropolis kind of trusts them to go through. Then when they open the door, they see it's Bala, the storyteller. And Superman's like, well, it makes sense, because you're the only person here that knows a lot about Warworld. And it kind of didn't make sense before, but now seeing you here, it all comes together. Bala tells him that he's a servant of the god that the remnant came from. And he's one of the people that makes sure that it's like, whoever finds the remnant, that they need to be worthy. And sadly, if he wants the power of this god, then he's going to have to prove himself. And that's all I got for this video. Of course, I'll continue later. We're getting close to the end, but thank you for watching. I am back with Superman Warworld, and the last thing we saw, Mongol forces are advancing, including the Brainwatch Apollo, Light Ray, who is now Black Razor, and Omat. Natasha, Orphan, and the Blacksmith are going to change the Red Star into a Yellow Star. However, Mongol's General, the Teacher, and Darling are in the way. Superman and a few Kryptonians found the power source of Acropolis. However, their first trial to get the power just started. Our story continues in Action Comics issue 1046. Now we continue with the start of the trial. Now it's Superman, Cryux, and the two Kryptonian children, Osora and Utara. I might be getting all three of them names wrong. But the point of this trial is that they have to get to the other side without, being unalive. Now they are having problems because none of them can fly, there's no clear path, and they have to jump around to get to it, and they have to deal with this creature following them. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're able to dodge, bob, and weave and stuff. But at the same time, it is a little bit hard for them. During the process, Carlos got hurt. Superman was like, okay, you stay back, you kids stay back. I'll get to the other side. And it kind of helps Superman because he doesn't have to worry about anybody else right now. Which, of course, is kind of reasonable in this situation. Now Superman is able to get to the other side where he see this little girl, energy girl, whatever you call them. And then the girl's like, you're a very interesting warrior as you don't have any souls on your back. Unblooded sword, which is interesting. And she's more like the guy to take him to his next task. Now the second trial is a puzzle where he has to pick the right symbols for a door to open. Then it takes him like a small minute, but he's able to figure it out. Then a big door appears. Then he hears a voice saying, step forward, Superman, meaning that he's on the verge of going to the last trial. Superman goes to the door and you see Ogren, the old god. Then Superman's like, I guess you're Ogren. The guy's like, I'm not really him. I'm more like an echo or like what he used to be. But I have enough power to be a challenge for you. And of course, with that type of dialogue, you can tell that Superman is being challenged with his strength as he goes 1-for-1 for Ogren. I really feel like I'm saying that wrong. Superman is able to hold his own in this battle, and he's actually doing well. But then Ogren just starts to swing at the little girl, whatnot. Superman's like, no, and he pushes her out the way, being attacked in the process. And this is where we learn that the little girl actually made the illusion of Ogren, and it kind of shows that it's like Superman's willing to sacrifice himself to save someone else, which is the reason why this shows that Superman is worthy of the power of the Acropolis, the power of an older god. And that power turns itself into a sword. With the sword, Superman is now able to go back to where Cryux and the children are. But when he gets there, Cryux is like, I'm sorry, El. And Superman's like, what do you mean? He's like, you don't understand. You have to give up the fire of Ogren. And you see Mongol's eyes, showing that Mongol's there, and Cryux was a stranger this entire time, which is just crazy. Plot twist. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and the last thing we saw, Superman was able to get the power of Necropolis, aka the power of the old god Ogren. However, when he got back, Mongol was there, and we learned that Cryux was a stranger this entire time that was helping out Mongol. Now, before I continue, there was a side story that was going through issue 1044 all the way to 1046. And this was explaining what Lois Lane and Steel were doing with the Fragment and Thal. Now, at some point, Thal was having a seizure, so Lois Lane and Kara Khan managed to bring her to Steel, but then she had another seizure. So Steel and Supergirl had to power up, destroy her container, and take her out. Then Supergirl, she grabbed her, took her to a yellow sun, because that's the only way she knows how to heal Kryptonians, or at least the fastest. This is when we find out that Natasha was able to get through to Steel, or at least able to communicate with him, and say, yeah, we're going to need the Genesis Fragment to figure this out. It's the only way to help Thal, but we're going to need to figure out a way to work on this together. Elsewhere, in a prison on Earth, Amanda Waller was talking to a past Superman villain called Conduct, and she's like, we need your help getting the fragment, or Genesis Fragment that almost started the war, and we know where it is. And she's the one that gave him his suit, and as you can see, next to Return to Conduct, showing that he's about to go get it. In chapter 2 of the story, this is when Natasha, Orphan, and Steel are talking about the Red Star and needing to turn to a Yellow Star to get Superman his power back and to bring them all back home. But right after they got done talking, Steel and Lois Lane were attacked by Conduct, and he managed to grab the fragment and try to run away. But they weren't about to let him leave without a fight, though. And they did try their best, but he managed to escape. But you know, Lois Lane was not about to let that slide. She called her son John Kent, Supergirl, Connor Kent, aka Superboy, and the Superman of China, Con Kennan. I might be saying that wrong. In the last chapter of the story, Kondak was telling Amanda Waller that he has it, but then he got attacked out of nowhere. When he looked up, he saw Steel, Supergirl, Connor Kent, and Con Kennan. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. But Kondak ain't no opponent. He don't care if he's getting a jump. He's going to fight back. Now, Conduit, I just realized I'm saying his name wrong. But Conduit was holding his own against 4 members of the Superman family. And he was doing well for himself until John Kent got there. Now, you got to remember, without the fragment, Thala would definitely be unalive in the process because she really needs it. And John was like her biggest ops when she got to Earth. So when he found out what happened to her, he really felt bad about it. And when he found out that Conduit actually had something that can keep her alive, he didn't hold back by a lot, as he actually put in a good amount of force into punching him, breaking his mask in the process. Asking Amanda Waller for help, Amanda Waller's like, yeah, I'm not going to do that, you're on your own. With his back against the wall, Conduit grabbed the fragment, tried to use his power, but then it just overloaded on him, just fried him in the process. John didn't destroy the fragment because it was the only way to keep the Conduit alive. And he said that it's like Superman, we'll figure out a way to save Thala. We're not going to give up on her. That's all the time I got for this video. Of course, I'll continue later on 2 more videos, then we are completely done with the Warworld Saga. Thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga. This is going to be a 2-parter, but the last thing we saw, Natasha and the Orphan are trying to change the red star of the planet into a yellow star to get Superman's powers back, but Mongo's General, the teacher, was already there. Superman finally getting the power of Necropolis, aka the power of O-God, but when he got back to his Kryptonian allies, you find out that Cryox betrayed him and was working with Mongo the entire time. Now, our story ends in Superman Warworld Apocalypse, issue number 1. Now, the issue starts off on the battlefield with Superman's allies going up against Mongo's forces, and this is like the last stretch. And on Mongo's forces, you gotta remember, it has Omac, Light Ray, who is now Black Razor, and Apollo, which those last 2 have been brainwashed to working with Mongo. Shifting the story to Superman, he's now screwed because Mongo's here, and he has the kids hostage, and he's like, Krogs, why the hell would you do this? Mongo's like, hey, don't worry about him. Give me the power. Give it to me now. Superman was about to give him the power, which was in the shape of the sword, but then out of nowhere, the cat just attacked Mongo saying, I won't let you do this, truth and justice. But then Mongo just grabbed him by the neck and just put a sword through his stomach. The Mongo just throws Oso's body down to the ground in a disrespectful manner, just pissing Superman off. Because literally the next second, Superman just straight up punched Mongo in the face. The Mongo's like, alright, well, I got the power. I don't need you anymore. Then they start throwing hands for the last time. We then shift the scene to Natasha, Orphan, and the blacksmith because they're going against the teacher, and the teacher has Darling, who is being controlled by him because Darling usually listens to Orphan. The teacher started gloating because he don't see any way that they can beat him, but then Natasha and the Orphan started using teamwork, so the Orphan was able to rip through one of the teacher's creatures using his powers. Even more angry on how the teacher could have helped Orphan and Darling, that he basically hurt him in the process, so the Orphan just straight up annihilates the teacher, and in doing that, destroys another one of Mongo's generals. Then Orphan was able to free the mind of Darling, so now Darling's on Superman's side. Shifting the scene to where Mongo's forces are attacking Superman's allies, aka the Rebels. The Rebels are able to hold them off at bay, but at the same time, they're still facing their old allies, so it's still not going to be easy. Especially when they're going against Apollo, who is one of the strongest members of the Authority. Back to Superman and Mongo, where their fight is just getting more intense. Cryox trying to intervene, like, Superman, just get him the relic. There's so much more to this. Superman's like, man, get out of my face. Then he looks at the sword. He's like, you know what? Bala said it's not just strength, it's life. Then he tries to get the sword to Oso, which actually works and brings him back to life. And this also means that Oso now has the power of the Ogre. Mongo's like, did you really just waste this power on a freaking weakling? Superman's like, yes. Now get up. I ain't done whooping your butt yet. Shifting to the Rebels, they're still fighting Apollo and they're even having a tougher time. But then out of nowhere, there's big boom and someone says, we'll take him from here, Midnighter. Then it's the Justice League, finally helping. Better late than never, I guess. Then they all just go straight for Apollo, just holding him down. Cyborg's like, oh, there's something in his back that's controlling him, let me take it out. Then Apollo tried to blast him in the face and he tried to like get Cyborg off him. But then it turns out the Justice League weren't even there. It was just Manchester Black making an illusion so Apollo can take out the brainwashing and take himself. Then Omax appears. Midnighter's like, you really want to fight us? Omax like, no. I'm sorry for what I've done in the past, but we really need to figure out a way to save Light Ray. That's all the time I got, but like I said, it's 2-parter, so I'll send the second part later on. Thank you for watching. I am back with the Superman Warworld Saga, and continuing with part 2 of the issue, Superman Warworld Apocalypse, issue number 1. Now, Natasha Irons Group, being Herd, the Blacksmith, Orphan, and Darling, are in the reactor area where the red sun is, and they need to change that into a yellow sun. Now, they try to figure out a way to get to the reactor, but the closer they get, the more they're going to burn. However, while they're talking, some of Mongo's men just come out of nowhere and just start attacking them with their projectiles, and they start attacking the blacksmith, making him being on the verge of being unalive. Realizing that they have an opportunity, the blacksmith tells Natasha, look, I'm not going to make it anyway, so just keep him off my back as much as you can. So the blacksmith just goes to the reactor, just takes the thing out. I admit, I don't fully understand how it works. And on his dying breath, he's able to change the red sun into the sun that they need. Now back to the fight with Superman and Mongo. They keep going at it, but then Mongo's like, nah, you ain't winning this. He just blasts Superman in the sky with the beam from his chest. But as he's gloating, a beam from the sky starts shooting right back at him. And the beam came from Superman while he's flying in the sky, showing that he finally has his powers back. Mongo realizes, man, I should have never brought you here in the first place. But before he had a chance to finish what he was saying, he was attacked from the back, unaliving him. And who did it? It was Cryux. Backstabbing again! The Kryptonians and the Rebellion's powers started manifesting, and it's something like they never felt before, but it really shows that the tide of the battle is about to change. But Black Razor, who used to be Light Ray, started going toward the Starforger, and she was about to stop whatever's happening. I'm guessing turning back to a Red Star, because it never really showed exactly what she could do in this instant. But a portal appears behind Black Razor, and his OMAC that jumps out grabs Black Razor and just jumps towards the energy. Now, even though that the energy just disfigures OMAC, that it actually takes away the dark influence from Black Razor and turns it back into the Light Ray. However, the dark influence didn't really just go away. It just manifests into the Black Razor, then it just ran away. I don't fully understand that. I'm not going to lie. Superman asked Cryux why he did this. Cryux said, well, Mongo and a few other people are the reason that my family's gone. But bringing you here was the only way to get the power of Ogrim, or basically the power of the old god. And sadly, I did have to sacrifice some of my own race for that, but Mongo's on the ground. So here we are. He then teleported away using Mongo's mother box while grabbing Mongo's corpse. But he did say, thank you, Superman. Thank you for teaching me how to hope. But nevertheless, the day is saved, Warworld is free, Mongo's done, and we can now celebrate and get on our way home. But we didn't shift to one of the members of the United Planets that was working with Mongo, and Cryux was like, yeah, so I beat Mongo, I'm coming for you next, because I know for a fact you was working with him. Shifting the scene to Lois Lane's office, finally back on Earth. Lois Lane is writing a she's writing a letter to Clark. But then out of nowhere, something just zooms and just grabs her and just flew out into the sky. But it's still okay though, because it's her husband, Clark Kent, Superman, finally home. And that is the end of Superman Warworld Saga. Thank you for watching. So, like I said before, I am done with the Warworld Saga, but there are some stuff I want to talk about, meaning the stuff that happened after the series. Like basically the aftermath and some lingering effects that happened from the event. First off, I want to start off with the Kryptonian Thala. Now, she finally stopped having seizures and she was able to recover, and Supergirl actually helped her get better after all that mess. She was helping her get used to her powers like super hearing, laser vision, flight, and stuff like that since she was still new to it. Thala was strong enough to help Supergirl figure out where Shit-Till was, Shait-Till is one of those two. Basically, help her find Mongo's last general because somehow he made it to Earth. For the people of Warworld, Superman was actually able to talk to the people at the United Planets and tell them, hey, so I just want to let y'all know that the United Planets helped me find all of your homes, and we're going to figure out a way to make sure y'all get them safely. But I do want y'all to know that even though we won't see each other much again, that you are still part of the House of L. I want to thank you all for your help. One problem, though, with Warworld was that when Superman made it back home, he kind of brought Warworld with him, so there was some tech that managed to make it to Earth, which was used against Superman, like for the characters Metallo, Cyborg Superman, a few other people, I'm pretty sure Lex Luthor also. Now for Cryux, we haven't seen it for a while, and the Warworld story ended in 2022. But if I'm correct, there's a series called Superman House of L that's currently out right now, and if I'm correct, I read like a brief summary, but it did say his name, so most likely he does appear again. We also find out that Superman's authority had a spy in it, and it was none other than Manchester Black, who was a spy for Lex Luthor. But that backfired for Manchester very, very quick. Now, one after effect that changed Superman's life in a big way was, in the story near the end, that these two kids asked Superman if he was willing to take them back to Earth with him, and he said yes. He adopts Otho and Oso. I know for a fact I'm getting those names wrong. And it wasn't long until these two kids got their own costumes. Now, Superman doesn't have them fighting enemies or whatnot, more like crowd control, because they're still training their powers and they're still young. And they do cause a little mischief because all they know is Warworld, but they're kids. They do their best. They didn't have names till later, which Oso went by Red Sun and Otho went by Starshot, which both names came from Kryptonian legends, or at least historical figures. But pretty much, yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Now, one thing I do want to mention, that there was a Superman and the Authorities with Batman special issue, but the only reason I didn't talk about this was because it didn't really move the story along. It was more like Superman trying to prove to Batman that it's like the Authority are what they need to be, and so and so. But that is completely all I want to talk about for the Warworld Saga. Thank you for watching, and you have a good day.